Welcome to episode 615 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Dan Hilton, and thanks to Lamine Yamal, it's 5 headlines again: the good, the bad, and rest, or the rest of it. That'll wait because there really wasn't much bad to talk about today. Player ratings, I feel like I can do that where there's more individual brilliance. One player was individually brilliant, and a lot of other players were really good today. But again, thanks to Lamine Yamal and his individual brilliance, I think it was time for 5 headlines. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And I've got some time to work with today. Speaking of time, I hope that everyone takes some time on Thursday to set your calendars to 3 p.m. East Coast time, 9 p.m. in Barcelona, where Barcelona are kicking off their Champions League campaign. Some demons exercise in that competition, and I will have the watch along on TIFO. Remember, promo code Ola Culés. Again, that is a watch along on TIFO. Plenty of fun in the watch along today against Girona. And because we're talking Girona, I want to remind the 20,000 of you that there is something special coming on YouTube and the podcast for the 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. That'll be coming out shortly. I'm still working on that, but there's also too much action and good stuff and good vibes to be discussing as well. So follow along on YouTube, helping get to 30,000. So maybe I could do a special 20,000, 30,000. I know it's going to take a bit longer than that, but also with the podcast, please keep subscribing, keep the good vibes going. So let's hit it. The 5 headlines from Barcelona's 4-1 win over Girona. Headline 1 is just play your game. Last season, we saw Girona, especially at home, inflict their style, the way that Michel wanted to play, the press, all that stuff. We saw Barcelona and Xavi put to the sword because Girona played the way they wanted to play and Barcelona couldn't adapt. And we saw the inverse today, and even from the opening whistle. That high press and mid block from Girona, Barcelona met them with a high press and a mid block, and that line of confrontation with the back four was high, Placey playing at midfield and unafraid to go at Girona. Barcelona then had to pass through, especially to put other teams at a sword by so far this year. So tactically, Barcelona said, hey, we're going to mirror you and we're going to just do a better version of that. And that's what they did. Lamine Yamal got the first shot in this game 6 minutes in, took the shot away from Pedri. And at that point, you saw that Barcelona were going to have some opportunities. They just had to convert. Danjuma, also for Girona, I think this is one of their issues. He was playing centrally, but he was also one of the only real outlets out wide. He's fast, he's physical, and they wanted to put him on the ball in space, but Barcelona didn't allow him to get any space in the middle of the field. They would push him out on the counter in transition, and those clearances from Girona weren't enough in the pass. And I also thought that Koundé, as always, Koundé shifted well, got over to Danjuma, and Pau Gassi and Koundé were rock solid on the right side of that back four, not allowing him the space he needed. And Girona also, because they were in that mid block, at times they had to put more bodies behind the ball, almost into a low block, that Danjuma also had to drop in deep in the middle of the field. So there just wasn't room for him to cause the havoc that he has been or looking to cause, because he was also a late signing, and maybe it'll take a few more weeks for him to get accustomed to the way Girona want to play. They're also, as far as supporting Barcelona and Girona, I think they both were probably happy that there was only one foul in the first 15 minutes of the game. 14 minutes in, the first foul of the game was committed. So the game was also pretty clean, which does, in theory, support Girona and the way Michel wants to play, but also supports the way that Flick and Barcelona want to play. Get in their flow, find those combinations, play with a bit of confidence, find the game, and they had. Even when Girona felt like they were finding the game after about the first 15, 20 minutes of the contest, it didn't really matter because Barcelona were already fully into that contest. We also saw, I think, some intelligent use of space out wide. There was wider positioning from Rafinha today. If you check that heat map, working with Balde there on the left. And today was some good and bad from Balde, but certainly more good. He was really getting forward and more finding the space, which opens up the opportunities in the central channels for the likes of Olmo, Lewandowski, and Lamine Yamal when he would shift into the middle. And then Rafinha also operating not only in the half spaces, but in a deeper position. And Balde getting forward allows you to do that. There was that one moment when he should have had the cutback ball to either Olmo, Lewandowski, or Lamine Yamal. They all had a gripe with him for good reason. But positionally, I thought he was terrific. He also had a good defensive day against Bryan Gil, so cut his day short. He was out of Girona's lineup before the 60th minute, even though I think he had his moments. Balde on both sides of the ball was important today. This all leads us to the 1-0 Lamine Yamal with the opener, and this has a lot to do with Lamine Yamal. It's unassisted because it had as much to do with Girona making a mistake than it did Lamine Yamal. Well, he had to capitalize on the mistake, and he did. Girona were trying to play out of the back, almost to a fault. That's the way they want to play. Flick and Barcelona did their homework. So David Lopez, who is double the age of Lamine Yamal, by the way, 17 to 34. Lamine Yamal strips him, and then Lamine Yamal just right back to it, goes right at the goalkeeper. And this is an easy finish for the 17-year-old. Gives us 1-0. Headline 2 is the boy with the brace. The 2-0. The ball falls to him after a free kick, and he finds the corner within 7 minutes. The brace. Girona failed to clear it. He becomes the youngest with a first half brace in La Liga history. A lot of stats here to give you, a lot of numbers to throw at you. Let's do it here. Lamine Yamal, every time he does something like this, he makes a bit of history. Of those players with the most goals in La Liga history before the age of 18, remember, he has until July, so this entire season, to work his way up this list. But the most goals in La Liga history before the age of 18, Ansu Fati, Bojan Krkic, and Pablo Pombo, which is a name I never heard. Obviously, I never heard of him. He played for Racing Santander in the 30s. So all three of those are at 11 goals before 18. Lamine Yamal is now at 8. So he has, almost 8 months to reach 3 more goals, which I think he will do this season, because I got pushback for the 10 and 20 that I predicted for him this season. 20 and 20 felt a bit too much for me, and it still feels a bit too much for me. Barcelona are obviously putting up 5 goals, 4 goals. This will not last forever, and the competition will kind of figure them out a little bit more, and they will have rough patches. No team can fly high throughout a whole season. Even Bayer Leverkusen, when they fell to Atlanta late last season, going unbeaten or putting a lot of goals behind every opponent is difficult to do. But 10 and 20, I think that is more than fair at this point. The 3 goals and 4 assists in 5 matches is absolutely insane. So well on his way. As far as players in the Liga, right now, Lamine Yamal, and I know it's still early days, but he has the most assists, most expected assists, most key passes, most progressive passes, most attacking actions, most offensive duels, most accelerations, most passes, most forward passes, most deep completions, and most passes into the penalty area. Some of those feel a bit made up, but this kid, I keep saying it, he's already a star. I'll repeat it again. How will he improve? We talked about that on the watch along. I'm not really sure, other than I think physically, and the people in the watch along also agreed with that sentiment, that I think physically he will get a bit stronger, which I don't know how much he's going to help on the press. I think he's really good in the balance needed, and he has longer legs than you think. So he winds up putting in a good tackle, I think, on the press. But I think as far as holding up possession and even being able to kind of muscle his opposition off the ball a little bit easier, I think he'll find a bit more danger in the penalty box and kind of making those not even late runs, but crashing after he received it. That was also discussed on the watch along. So again, credit to those who joined me on that. Remember, 3 p.m. East Coast time, Thursday against Monaco. And I think we can look forward to Lamine Yamal starting that one. And hopefully in the Champions League, he continue what is a tremendous, impossible to understand start to the season. Headline 3 is everybody's confused. I'm, of course, talking about VAR and what happened late in the first half that went against Girona here. 44th minute, though, this might not have been a talking point because Girona could have found their way back into the game, down 2-0 at that point. But Ter Stegen, a stop on Bryan Gil, really important from point-blank range. So Ter Stegen, you called into duty once today, and you got it done. The second time you were called into action, I don't know how much you could have done on the goal. We'll get to later. But Barcelona then, in first half stoppage time, I will say they were a bit saved by VAR. Yes, it's helpful when Barcelona start with so many goals. That it is a lot easier for me to say that the league isn't necessarily rigged for Real Madrid. Maybe it favors them a little bit, but all things for Barcelona, I think, work out. I don't think the league is against Barcelona. If you want to argue that Real Madrid gets some soft calls over the course of the year, yeah, sure, they do. But I don't think Barcelona necessarily get more negative calls than any other team in the league. I think the other 19 teams can make an argument that some go their way, some go against them over the course of a season. And for Barcelona, I think they should have gone against them, honestly. Balde, Bryan Gil, and Inigo Martinez. Inigo Martinez has his arm extended in what I would call an unnatural position. It goes off Balde's head to Inigo Martinez's arm. That's why I said I'm not sure why this isn't a penalty. And after the controversy yesterday with Real Madrid, again, this is why I say that it does all even out. Even after seeing the official rule, it feels like interpretation is what's the most important thing here. And I don't think anybody knows at this point. Again, I thought that was a penalty based on the other ones I've seen. And even friend of the show, Levon, said both Sport and Mundo Deportivo say that it was because Inigo's back was turned to the ball and couldn't see it. But that's not an official rule that you can actually see. And I just want to say on the other side of this that Inigo Martinez has been excellent under Flick. So this is the moment that I'm going to bring him up in this match review, but it has nothing to do with this moment in the game. And Nick Martinez has been terrific. And Flick had even said in the preseason that he was really impressed with the Basque defender. And that wasn't just a bunch of words. And Nick Martinez has been the leader along that back line. And he and Pau Cubarsí have been rock solid without Araujo. Ter Stegen also on this penalty, a bit cheeky here, taking his grand old time, drinking some water, getting rehydrated, taking his time to get into the net, to talk to the official on the far side, to talk to the main official. And Albert Ruiz standing at the spot, waiting to take the PK, waiting to see if he was going to celebrate against his old team. I was kind of curious if that was going to happen or not, but it didn't matter because VAR told the referee to look at it. Cheeky stuff by Ter Stegen to waste some time. And the dark arts for Ter Stegen work in Barcelona's favor because the official who initially called the PK agreed with VAR and takes it off the board. So again, everybody's confused. If you've got the explanation, put it in the comments. Or if you're listening to this on the podcast, just hit me up on wherever it is. Patreon for as low as $3. You can talk to me there. And of course, I'll see it, or social media, wherever you find us, Discord, Facebook, all that stuff. Headline 4 is flying high. The onslaught continued for Barcelona starting in the second half. And what I like to see is that while they did still play their game, not much changed. They also got more direct in the second half. They had about 70% possession in the first half, and they were on pace to hit 500 passes. But that pace slowed as things got more vertical. So the tempo and pace of the game didn't change, but the tempo and pace of the number of passes that Barcelona had did change a bit. It slowed up and things got more vertical, which leads us to the third goal. Perfectly vertical, right down Main Street. Well, kind of the half space of Main Street, I guess. That doesn't really exist. But the Koundé ball over the top to Olmo for the third goal. Took that one to the face in the first half, but still recovers here for the 3 goals in 3 matches. Hopefully he's all right. But the way that this goal was built too is that, yes, the Koundé ball over the top had a lot of quality, but with Lewandowski dropping deeper, the same with Rafinha and Lamine Yamal, Girona then collapsed, and then Olmo was the one who was able to make that run into the half space. That is the stuff that is drilled and worked on in training and recognized by good players. So good stuff all around. It's still a really tough angle, though, for Olmo to finish here. And I think as we kind of got that sense here now through 3 matches, we might see the best goal-scoring version of him this season. And having 8 goals last season, he had to do so much to create for RB Leipzig. And now he can just put himself on the end of some balls when he's not creating. Just a number of sheer big chances that Barcelona are going to have, I think, this season under Flick, as opposed to what RB Leipzig had last season. I think we're going to see the best goal-scoring version of Olmo. He also, for this shot, just a lot of skill here. He had to get the speed on the shot over the keeper's shoulder, and he found it. Shortly thereafter, David Lopez, a little redemption when Lewandowski got goal side. Probably should have had the 4th here, but David Luiz shut down the angle. And then Lamine Yamal sniffing the hat trick, but he would have to wait because it's punched away by Gazzaniga. And then Lewandowski again set up for Lamine Yamal's assist on a platter, but skied it over. So Lamine Yamal didn't get an assist in this game. 61st minute, Olmo, maybe some trouble breathing, I thought, as someone who's broken my nose 3 times. If that nose is broken, it's all banged up. So we'll see how he's going to do with maybe a mask until he can get surgery and all that stuff. And it might not be broken. Who knows? Hopefully it wasn't anything else. He also went down in a way that made you believe that it was something like lower half. So hopefully Dani Olmo's all right. Eric Garcia comes on for him and Hector Fort on for Cubarsí. Koundé over to center back. And really exciting too. Hector Fort, we saw Real Valladolid the lead. Flick promised that, hey, you're still in the plans. I'll get you on. Then to come on in the 61st minute with his team up 3-0, fulfilling his promise to Hector Fort tells you that this team, if they're going to play well, can get buy-in from everybody because everybody's going to get some minutes here. Koundé, as I said, moving over to center back for Fort to take up that spot at right back. The 4-0 comes. Casado with the through ball in for Pedri. Was this intended for Lewandowski? I don't think so. Having watched on the replay, this was perfect for Lewandowski to attract the attention on the pass. We're going to give full credit to Casado for seeing this angle here. And then Pedri dribbled himself around the keeper for 4. 2 goals already for Pedri this season. It was lonely on Pedri Island there for the last 2 seasons as he was injured. But hey, welcome back, everybody. Pedri is getting himself in all the spots he needs to be. He was important on that press in the first half and helping with build-up, and Casado supporting him. And I also thought Casado in the first half, I thought he was average. It wasn't necessarily a great day for him, but it wasn't a bad day. I thought it was just an okay day for him. His positioning behind Pedri was really good and really important, but his offensive contributions were just a bit lacking there. And then he picked it up in the second half, especially when Eric Garcia came on the field, which allowed him to push farther forward. And so then he got involved. And I thought it was a good day, a good 90 from Mark Costello. He put in a proper shift, which is what Barcelona need. Stars are going to be stars and role players are going to be role players. And he is fit perfectly as a role player since the moment that Marc Bernal went down. 69th minute. Here's some more subs. Ferran Torres and Pau Victor. Good to see some more minutes for him. On for Lewandowski and Pedri. And good to see those two get a rest. And headline 5 is Almost Always Sunny in Catalunya. I wanted to make the Always Sunny in Philadelphia reference. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. Hopefully, if you know about that show, it's not too offensive that I enjoyed that show. But yes, even I have a little bit of a wild side when it comes to some TV watching. But I wanted to make the reference here, but I can't say it was always sunny. It was just almost always sunny because the game didn't really end the best way for Barcelona after the 4 goals. Still, they were playing so well without the likes of De Jong, Gabi, Ronald Araujo, Christensen, Fermin Lopez, all being injured. It is bonkers that they're playing with this kind of confidence and putting goals behind any opposition they have faced so far in the Liga. That's great to see. And the big difference, which I think is more worth a conversation on a podcast, but the big difference, this is not disparaging Xavi, but Xavi Ball, the Flick's team, the big difference is that Xavi's system did require more individual brilliance. So we did see some big results from him too. That 12-match unbeaten streak was pretty important. So over the course of his tenure, we're just seeing, I think, kind of the best version of Flick, what happens when teams kind of catch up a little bit. But Xavi's system, because it requires more individual brilliance, we're just seeing just more champagne football from Flick's side because it's a system that supports the team concept, which I think that was my criticism for Xavi last year more than anything else, that his team so often didn't feel like a unit. This team really does feel like a cohesive unit, regardless of who you're plugging and playing. With maybe the exception of Lamine Yamal, I think he's the one guy so far this year who is really irreplaceable here. The 4-1, who else but Stuani? I think for Girona, Asprilla, the big signing from Watford, found Porto in for Stuani, and then Koundé at center back to Koundé at right back. It's been a difference so far. Ter Stegen also got dribbled around by Porto. Porto should start against Barcelona. I don't know why he doesn't. He's one of the best La Liga players against Barcelona. And then Hector Ford also a little bit of blame on this goal, also behind the play, caught up field. Some people threw out Eric Garcia, but he was also trailing a man and still almost made the tackle. So I don't really put anything on him for this. Yes, Eric Garcia was on the field when Girona scored a goal, but missed me with that. Ferran Torres for the red card. Yeah, a bit more criticism here. I think this was a red. I think this is clumsy. Stomp right on the man. No ball at all. Late tackle on Asprilla, who I'm excited to watch in the Liga this season. Unfortunately, now he's part of the City group. So I think Barcelona, even down the road, aren't going to be able to go back to the well for him. But again, I expect to see some good moments from him in the Liga this season as he kind of gets his feet wet as a teenager. And Girona are going to be relying on him. He wears the number 10 for them, so they're going to rely on him. Gerard Martin then coming on late. Lamine Yamal getting some rest in stoppage time. I don't think that's cause for celebration. Great, he got a few minutes of rest, but at least he didn't get hurt. How about that? And Gerard Martin coming on late meant that it was just a bench spot today for Guy Fernandez. Again, there was too many treats and good things for today, so had to have a few negative things, which is the red card for Ferran Torres, the goal for Girona, and then not getting to see Guillermo come on the field. Still, him getting a bench spot at 16 is pretty exciting. He'll have his moment. He'll have his time. Clearly, the club recognizes who the best players are in the academy. I mean, there's a lot of them. And La Masia it's strength to strength here. Remember, a 17-year-old from La Masia scored a brace today and became the youngest player to ever score a brace in the Liga. Made some history. For Barcelona, that's 5 wins and 17 goals scored. 4 conceded in the first 5 Liga matches for Barcelona. They are not only one of the best informed teams coming out of the international break. It's been 1 match, but they have been one of the best teams in Europe all season so far, which is not too many weeks. It's only been like 4 weeks, but still exciting stuff. The Flick tenure could not have started better. So we can continue that Flick tenure and hopefully with another victory in the Champions League to exercise some demons. That's against Monaco. The watch long is at 3 p.m. East Coast time, 9 p.m. Barcelona time on TIFO on Thursday. So for the Patreons, remember, I have not had a guest since the first watch long I did. If you want to be a guest, Patreon, as low as $3, you can come on with a microphone and a camera. So if you're a Patreon, I trust that you will do the right things, say the right things. I'll bring you on. And if you're a former guest of the show and you just happen to watch this on YouTube or listen to this on the podcast and you're a former guest of the Barcelona podcast, let me know. Request to come on and we can have a conversation on there. So looking to push that forward. And I also have another surprise coming that will help with podcast content and YouTube content coming up, hopefully in the next week or two on TIFO. So that's another thing to look forward to, another surprise. And I have that 20,000 subscriber thing that I'm also working on as another surprise. Gosh, the good times are rolling for FC Barcelona. So that is where I'll stop it. You can help out and enjoy the excitement with a good rating on the podcast apps or subscribing to the YouTube channel, or for those $3, being on my Patreon to help me continue to make and dedicate more time even to making more of these. So I have to do less of other work and just more FC Barcelona content. So most importantly, though, thanks so much for listening to the show. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Before Barça.